from someone who maybe needs to not be burdened by our demands. That might be something else again. But like we can see, if we look, how we form patterns. And if we don't question the pattern, we just keep repeating it. And it's like we keep walking down the same path. There's a situation, it's not particularly difficult or problematically, I just won't ask, it's all right. Then over time, the groove in the mind becomes deeper. It's like if you went out there and did walking meditation on the lawn, and the lawn was a bit fragile, I was hesitant to walk on it myself, but I much prefer walking on a lawn than on a sort of piece of asphalt, so I did anyway. But if one walked back and forth on that lawn for a little while, eventually you can start to see where you've been walking. If you do it a bit more, eventually the grass starts to sort of wither, fade and die. And if you keep walking back, you'll have a mud track. You can find your way and walk there very easily. But if you keep doing it, and there are walking trails that I've been on, where people have been walking back and forth on them for hundreds of years, and you know, they're this much or this much below the surface surrounding ground. It's the same in our mind. If we go back and forth on the same track enough, we start to fall into it. At a certain point, we're so far in it, we can't see out the top, and we don't imagine there's anything else apart from this track. And we experience it as such because it's not like I could or I couldn't do that. It's like, no, it just isn't going to happen. I'm not even going to consider asking for the salt. And it gets that, in a way, ridiculous, but it's not ridiculous because it can be so painful in such, and I'm just using that as an illustration. That sense of the grooves of whereby we limit ourselves, that somehow we don't allow ourselves to freely be or express who and what we are. And we can do it to ourselves in meditation, telling ourselves we're not supposed to be having the feeling that we're having. We're supposed to be detached, as someone suggested to me, which of course has its value. I would say not attached as opposed, or non-attached, unattached rather than detached, which suggests distance. But if we have a habit of always pulling away from experience, meditation can just become another way to do that. If that's our if we've already got that groove, and most of us do, actually, because probably lots of people who come to a silent meditation retreat, even the ones who think that being silent isn't really their thing or cup of tea, at some level a lot of us probably also have an inclination to not have to talk so much and to not have to be so engaged and to look and be careful that we're not just repeating a pattern. Don't make an assumption that that's so. I'm not suggesting that. But look and to see what's our pattern. What's our pattern? And then see what would it take to not be carried by it. Because it's easy to see the suffering and the momentum and being caught and driven and conditioned by our mental patterns. We can see the suffering in that very clearly. We also need to understand what we get from them, because none of them are random. We're always getting something out of it. And in the case of that particular pattern, I was not having to feel the vulnerability and the fear associated with asking or admitting that I needed something, basically. And of course I can get by without the salt, but that's not the point. The point is that actually I wasn't free in relationship to the need or the want for something to make my dinner a little tastier. And that's what's important to me in the end. So, going against the stream is to see where we're not free and to ask ourselves, what can I do here? What's possible for me here? Sometimes what it says is, I'm spending all my time thinking about my feelings and emotions, and that's the habit. And dwelling and lost and living in it. And what I need to do is say, wow, there's a lot of feeling, there's a lot of emotion, but I just want to be here in my body and feel my breath or my feet. And try that out. For others of us, actually, we don't spend a lot of time at all in our emotional life. And the pattern is much more, whoa, don't go near that stuff. It's hot and sticky and smelly and dirty and dangerous. And this meditation is great because I can stay right over here where it's cool. And then actually what we need to do is say, interesting, okay, but what you need to do is go right over there and stand in the fire. And let yourself feel what that's like. So we can't map this in any way objectively or communally. We can't map it in a sense of this is what you or all of us should be doing. We have to look for ourselves and see, well, where are we leaning? Where are we pulled? Where are we compelled? And ask ourselves, does that serve me? Because if it doesn't, I want to address it. I want to say, okay, My habit is always to go this way. What happens if I go just a little bit this way? The first thing that happens is, oh, I don't want to do that. All hell's going to break loose. I've just sworn on a videotape. I'm in trouble. You know, that's what the mind does. Whoops, I shouldn't have done that. Oh, actually, probably it's all right. Especially now I've commented on it. At least they know I was conscious. But to see, what's that? Oh, yeah, there's a whole sense of how it should be. And very quickly onto it comes a sense of what will other people think of that, right now or in the future. How much weight we give to that fear of what people will think about what we said or do, or didn't say or didn't do. I think it was Lao Tzu who said, if you want everybody to approve of you, you will become their prisoner. And we do that. Of course, we actually aren't their prisoner. We're our own prisoner, sadly, because it's not them, it's our own imprisoning that is involved here. So, to go against the stream requires a real courage and a commitment to our integrity and our well-being. And there are, well, I said there's lots of particulars, and I was just kind of taking that specific one to explore and reflect on a little. We can see it in terms of more broad themes also. There's the particular things we like or don't like, or want or don't want, or fear or don't fear. But we can also see in a broader brush terms what we could call a sense of self-concern, where a lot of our activity, our mental activity, our daily activity, is somehow all about me and my, and somehow preserving, protecting, promoting, enhancing me in some way or form. And that particular pattern of activity has with it a sense of a sort of being enclosed in a very limited world, where everything is looked at, is it doing something to me? Or is it doing something for me? And if it's not one or the other, we're not interested. One of the reasons it's hard to stay with the breath is that it's not doing anything to us or for us particularly. Actually, it's doing a lot for us, because if it wasn't going on, we'd be dead. But we just take that for granted, that it's going to keep doing that. Sometimes it's useful to reflect on how we take that for granted, but that's not the theme for now. So the sense of self-concern, it's like, in fact, there's a Chinese teacher by the name of Wei Wu Wei. So I think he's a Taoist teacher, but he once observed, when asked why people suffer, he said, "Why do you suffer? You suffer because 99.9% of what you do is for yourself, and there isn't one. At least not in the sense that we imagine. That sense of it's all about me. It's all about me." Now, that's not to say that we don't have what is a very real and meaningful and important existence. And yet how we understand what that is. When we're in the bubble of self-concern, it's all about the appearance. It's all about the appearance and the surface of things. And so there's an invitation, if we notice that that's our tendency, if I've spent my whole life looking out for me and not really caring too much about anyone else, really helpful to spend some time acting in the support and the service of others. And this is something we hear a lot in spiritual teachings and Dharma teachings and teachings from other traditions. That sense of service, of offering, of giving support to the welfare of others. Even if it's just washing up the teacups at the end of the day. There's something incredibly lovely about just offering something that serves others. Because it's not just about me. It's not just about me. It's not getting my life any further ahead from an objective, practical, sort of conventional perspective. And yet we can feel and sense that, yeah, actually, there's something lovely about this. There's something freeing about not being enclosed and, in fact, entombed in that sense of self-concern. And so that is one basic orientation when patterning that we get caught in the momentum of. That if we see it, we need to learn to check it and to make and find ways to make simple,